But what can you tell the folks who are watching and listening to this episode about what they need to know about this upcoming Junior Day for Georgia?
Yeah, well, much like the first one that we talked about, I mean, if you're getting invited to a Georgia Junior Day, you're a big-time Georgia recruit. Like, I can't say definitively, like, every single person that was on Georgia's Junior Days the last 2 weeks have a committable offer, but I think it's pretty safe to say in like 99% of cases, like if you wanted in, you could get in. Now, the timing of the recruiting cycle and things like that is probably going to delay announcements and commitments, just the way that the calendar works nowadays. But I think and like you mentioned, we'll talk about this way more in depth on the recruiting show. But I think you got to start with the running back position. I mean, they are bringing in Derek Cooper and Savion Hyder, who are possibly running back 1, running back 2 in this class. I mean, Savion Hyder is the number 1 ranked running back in the 24/7 Sports recruiting rankings. Derek Cooper's listed as an athlete, so that sort of skews where I think he's the number 4 athlete. I think if he was ranked as a running back, he would be the number 2 running back right behind Savion, because I think he's like 2 spots behind him in the overall rankings. So we talked last Junior Day about the 3 running backs that they were bringing in: Javion Osborne from out of state, and then Carson Baker and Jay Lamar from in-state. This is maybe putting my neck out a little bit too much without quite enough information on it, but I feel as though Georgia's going to sign 2 guys out of that group of 5. Like, you just look at the way that they're recruiting them, the relationships that they've built, the visits that are recurring over and over again. Like, that's the 5 that Georgia's really keying in on. Now, they've offered some other guys. I'm sure that they'll get some on spring practices. Wouldn't even surprise me if somebody that I haven't listed in those 5 takes an official visit to Georgia. But just the priority level that it feels like Georgia is taking with those 5, and that those are reciprocating, feels like Georgia's in a really good spot to land 2 of those guys. Last Junior Day, there wasn't a ton on the defensive back front. Travaris Robinson and Dante Williams really wanted to emphasize having as many defensive backs together as they could to try and build that camaraderie and culture within the secondary. And so there were even some guys that had been planning to be at the original Junior Day that they rescheduled to February 1st. So I'll just list a few of them out. Jira Edwards, number 1 safety in the country, Dorian Barney, Nasir McCoy, Tyreek Green. Those 3 are all in-state guys. Jordan Smith is another safety from Houston County. His teammate, Kayvon Conciaro, was on a visit at the beginning of the Junior Day period. So Georgia's trying to make some headway down at Houston County. Peyton Dyer from Duluth High School. Tony Forney from Kell was one that was going to originally be on the first Junior Day, but rescheduled for this. And then Javari Flowers is one that I've learned about this week as well. There's way more people that are going to be visiting, even some that you could even consider more high-profile recruits. But I just think, given that Georgia took 1 running back last cycle, and not that Trevor Etienne was going to be around after this year anyways, but him leaving early, I just think it adds a little bit of focus onto the running back room and Josh Crawford's management of what he's going to put together in the future at that position. So I just think this is a big cycle there. And then defensive back, we talked a lot last cycle about how Travaris Robinson and Dante Williams were later to being added to the staff, and it took a minute for some relationships to be built. And just because of the top 100 guys that they brought in the 2024 cycle at corner, it was going to be difficult to bring people in the 2025 class. But I think they're going to look to make some home runs. There's a great crop of in-state talent at defensive back this cycle. And they've already, last Junior Day, they had Chauncey Kennan, the number 1 corner. This Junior Day, they've got Jira Edwards, who I think is the number 1 safety, but I might be slightly off on where he's ranked right now, but a highly rated safety in the 24/7 Sports rankings. And so they're clearly trying to combine elite national cornerback and safety play with what they already have as in-state possibilities. And I think that it should end up as a good recruiting class for Georgia at defensive back.